everyone, welcome back, and in this video I'll be going through the Candidates Tournament round number 1. This is FIDE rated, and this time the men's and women's will be happening at the same time, and the winner will play the world champion at the world championship. So I'm going to be going through one interesting game from the men's and the women's. The men's one is between Fabiano Caruana and Hikaru Nakamura, Fabiano white, Hikaru black. So let's see. Knight to f3 is played, the Reti opening, pawn to d5, and here the Reti gambit is played, pawn to c4. Here the main move was d4 to make it like a kind of Benoni switched around. Usually Benoni is played with black with d4 and then c5. And then but he plays the move e6 Hikaru, and then pawn to g3 is played by Fabiano, maybe trying to go for a Catalan, maybe d4 will even come. But so then Hikaru plays the best move, pawn to d4. Another move other than pawn to d4 could have been something like knight f6, just defending, developing, but also pawn to d4 is good. And then bishop g2, knight c6, castles, and it should develop. And then here, pawn to e3, which is not the best move. I think another move could be d3, a3, rook e1, but he played pawn to e3, and then knight g7, a developing move. And here, this is not losing a piece. Fabiano has the move b4, so bishop b6, you go c4. So this kind of takes off the bishop, so then you take the knight, and now it's just equal in material because you gave away a pawn. So you have to take on b4. And then Hikaru castles, queen goes to b3 attacking the bishop, bishop goes back to a5, knight to c3 is played, and knight goes to f5. So this is a really good move, activating the knight, hitting the pawn. You wouldn't want to take here because taking here kind of allows something like bishop a3 hitting this, but I guess taking was not a bad move. So bishop to a3 is played, and then rook goes to e8. After that there was pawn to d5, knight goes to d4, and the queen has to slide to a3 attacking the bishop. The only move here is bishop takes c3, which was not played. As you can see, there is knight e2 to win the pawn back, but that was not played, bishop to c3. Instead, Hikaru Nakamura played the move b6. This is not a good move because of rook a e1 hitting there. Bishop goes to d7, but it's okay, not a bad position. Queen to d1, c5. There is en passant here, but no. Bishop b2, rook b8, a4, a6, and just trade the pawns. Knight goes to d5, queen to d6, trades rook e4, bishop takes d5, rook there, bishop there, and the bishop goes to b4. Hikaru, everything's controlled. It's going to be a draw most likely. Pawn to h4, a5, d3, queen f6, king to g2, queen e5. This is dead draw. Queen f3. There's no way you can bishop this. Although Hikaru made a mistake, bishop c5. This allows pawn to h5, and then after h6 there's rook h1. This is the problem. Now, after something like queen g5, you can go back, bishop there, bring the rook in, bishop d4, and now the problem is this allows your queen and rook to get active, and you would not want to trade them off because like they're brilliant. So after a lot of thinking, finally Fabiano Caruana managed to pick up a win with the move which will come up now. Rook takes f7. This wins not just wins a pawn, but it goes bishop d5, rook to e6, queen g5. There was a brilliant move and two great moves in a row. Fantastic stuff. After king f8, then you take, and now you're just winning up a pawn. This is winning endgame. You wouldn't want to trade queens because opposite colored bishops. But in this case, they would eventually trade queens because after f4, your pawns are too active. Your king is in, and yeah, then you start to get low on time. And on move 83 after pawn to c5 by Fabiano Caruana, Hikaru Nakamura resigned with 1 minute and 9 seconds, and Fabiano having about 1 minute 53, as the game went nicely with a kind of Reti opening from Fabiano, but then Hikaru made the blunder activating Fabiano's rook and queen, and eventually him finding the brilliant moves and winning the game. So that wasn't that interesting, but there were two other wins and a draw, but the men's was going fine in round one. But now let's go through the women's round one. So I think the most interesting one was definitely between Divya Deshmukh and Anna, as in the women's round one, they were all draws. All four games between the eight people were draws. This game was a bit interesting because of the way they coordinated the pieces, as you'll see. So Divya started with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4. This is the Scotch game. Many beginners play this. I'd recommend it for beginners if like you want to play good openings. Knight takes, knight f6, and then here you go. Takes, b takes, and e5. So e5, I wouldn't say is the best move. Rather do something like bishop d3, knight c3, like defending. But e5 is also not a bad move. Thing is queen e7. Now you cannot take because of the pin. Do not make illegal moves. So queen to e2 is played. And after knight goes to d5, g3, g6, c4, and now bishop a6. Anna is really good at spotting pins. She did not allow the take with the queen, and so with the bishop. So now throughout the whole game almost, he did not take the king. I mean the knight. So now castles is, I don't know why it's a great move. It's only a great move because any other move would lose because of this pawn. Castles. The thing is now bishop takes. You just go queen takes, bishop takes, rook takes, and you take the pawn in d7. Castling would avoid a check, so that's the main point. Knight goes to b4, knight c3. You don't want to fall into this, so great moves. And you can see how the pawn wall is coordinated. The bishop's moving back. Here, obviously, something like rook fd1 would be the best move. King f8, I'd say something like rook e7 hitting the bishop. But okay, king f8, not a bad move. Want to get the king and king f1. Knight back. Now look, the reason you can't just take here is because it blocks the bishop. You see how the pieces are coordinating to make trades. So bishop takes e6. Now bishop h3 is the only move. And then you take here. And then you have to take the rook. And then this is like just a drawn position. Divya being up a pawn. But this does not make much of a difference as Anna was going to win it back. Divya needs to defend with rook c4, winning the pawn. And here it's just a drawdown game. They end up repeating moves happily on move 35 with 19 and 14 minutes. These two draw, as you can see. If there was not for the coordination of the pieces, how they managed to use it to defend, trade, this would have not been an easy draw. As round ones are not usually that interesting, I'm really looking forward to seeing the ending rounds as that might be really interesting and chaotic. So this was a draw, and so Fabiano beat Hikaru and a draw between Divya and Anna. So that was it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and looking forward to seeing the next few games. Those were the two games. Now I'll be getting you round two when it happens. So that's it for today's video. Goodbye.